Hi, I am Elephant. Today let's see the anime named Farming Life in Another World. In other anime, the main character fights and subdues the Demon King in another world, and later conquers the whole world. But in this anime, the main character builds a farm after he travels to another world, spending his whole day studying farming. Most strangely, he unexpectedly attracts a large group of beauties to be his wives, including a vampire, an elf, and even an angel of heaven. So how can he achieve this? Let's start today's recap. The main character is named Hiraka Machio, who lives a miserable life. He is not only betrayed but also suffers from an incurable disease. After he dies, he comes to heaven. At this time, the god tells him that all this is a mistake of the god, and the punishment that originally belonged to the evil person is mistakenly placed on Hiraku. So the god offers to compensate Hiraku, and he will agree to whatever Hiraku wants. Hiraku thinks for a while and proposes that he wants to farm, because of his poor interpersonal relationships. Plus he often watches programs about agriculture when he was sick. He keeps fantasizing that after recovering from illness, he can go to a place where there are few people to be a farmer and live a leisurely life. After that, the god blesses Hiraku with a healthy body and an omnipotent farming tool. By the time Hiraku wakes up, he is in a large forest. Hiraku retains his previous memories, and he immediately summons the omnipotent farming tool that the god said. He can't wait to start farming the land. By using this omnipotent farming tool, he can farm without consuming physical strength, and turn hard land into fertile soil. Immediately afterwards, Hiraku finds a large tree in the forest and uses it as his future stronghold. He has to deal with the water source before that, but he searches in the forest for a long time and can't find a river, so he decides to dig a well. As he thinks in his mind, the omnipotent farming tool turns into a shovel. He digs for hours with this shovel, and finally finds the water source. Now he starts to build his own house. The first step is to cut down the tree, and Hiraku turns the omnipotent farming tool into an axe. With just a little force, he directly cuts down the tree. Later, he turns the omnipotent farming tool into a machete and begins to deal with the large tree he just cut down. This omnipotent farming tool is very magical, and cutting trees with this machete is easier than cutting vegetables. Hiraku easily cuts trees into the shape he wants. He wants to start building a house when he notices that the sun has set, so he decides to dig a hole under this huge tree to rest. In this world, there are 2 moons at night, so he can see clearly at night. Hiraku then turns the omnipotent farming tool into the file and makes much cutlery for himself. Early the next morning, he turns the omnipotent farming tool into a magnifying glass and uses the principle of the sun's focusing to build fires for himself. Later, he clears up the surrounding environment. Although he will not get tired when using the omnipotent farming tool, his physical strength will still be consumed when he is not using it. After a short while, he gets hungry. At this time, a fierce demon rabbit in the forest attacks him, and Hiraku hits the demon rabbit's head with a hoe in a panic, after which the rabbit's head immediately turns into a pile of soil. Fortunately, the body of the demon rabbit is still there, and he uses the demon rabbit meat plus the fire that was built not long ago to make a barbecue to fill his stomach. After filling his stomach, Hiraku wants to go to the loo, so he uses the omnipotent farming tool to make himself a loo, which contains an exhaust vent, a storage slot, and a toilet. He is finally able to go to the toilet in this hidden environment. Then he starts making his own farmland. As long as he uses this omnipotent farming tool to cultivate, he doesn't need to sow the seeds, and the seeds of the vegetables in his mind will automatically emerge from the ground. Besides, these vegetables grow very fast. In order to prevent his field from being destroyed by wild beasts, he builds a fence around the field and digs a deep pit in the ground outside the fence. While these vegetables are growing, Hiraku fills his stomach with demon rabbits and wild boars around him. A few days later, his farmland is finally tidied up, and he builds himself a small house. As Hiraku adjusts to farming life, he encounters 2 wounded wolves. Out of kindness, Hiraku gives them the wild boar he has collected in the past few days. At this time, Hiraku discovers that the demon wolf which has been pregnant is about to give birth, so he gives up his house to them. At night, he worries that the demon wolf will be frozen, so he also builds fires in front of the door. Soon after, the demon wolf gives birth to several little demon wolves. Hiraku again takes out a lot of wild boar to feed them. The demon wolf feels the kindness of Hiraku and decides to live here and become Hiraku's partner. The house becomes the wolf's room, and Hiraku builds himself a bigger house. At this moment, the god wants to see how Hiraku is doing, and when he finds Hiraku in the forest, he finds it a vexed issue. It turns out that the forest where Hiraku is located is called Death Forest, and it is full of monsters and dangers. The god once again arranges Hiraku in the wrong place. Right now Hiraku is happily running his own farm, becoming more and more skilled and making more and more tools. In order to thank the god for bringing him a new life, he also makes a statue of the god. In addition to growing vegetables, Hiraku has started planting fruit trees, but the fruit trees usually take several years to mature, so he plans to continue expanding the farm, and he finds a river not far from the stronghold. Under the protection of the demon wolf, he successfully makes the water of the river diverted to his stronghold using the omnipotent farming tool. Later, he expands his farmland again, planting canola flowers, wheat, and sugarcane. Time passes day by day, and winter is coming. In order to keep warm, he decides to make some clothes out of wild animal skins. But unprocessed wild animal skins are very smelly and easy to spoil. Just as he is about to give up, a new member comes to his farm, a giant spider. This spider is a friend of the demon wolf, and it can spit silk to make some fabric and can also make warm coats out of wild animal skins, which is simply a natural tailor. So the spider also settles down on the farm, and with the clothes made by the spider, plus the vegetables and food hoarded during this time, they can finally survive the winter. It snows heavily outside the house this winter, and Hiraku spends most of his time in the house. Gradually, he begins to feel a little lonely and hope for someone to talk to him. In the spring of the following year, the little demon wolves grow up, and they go deep in the forest to find their mates. The spider also gives birth to many small spiders. Hiraku feels more and more lonely, and now with so many companions, Hiraku can only temporarily put aside his emotions and work harder to run his farm. On this day, the love belonging to Hiraku finally arrives. He finds a wounded little girl under a tree near the farm, and when he approaches the little girl, the girl unexpectedly bites Hiraku's neck. When she finishes sucking blood, her body grows. It turns out that the girl is a vampire. Just then, the wolves attack her, and the vampire becomes smaller again. The vampire quickly explains that sucking blood is only a means to restore her physical strength, and she actually has no malice. Hiraku actually didn't feel any discomfort when he was sucked blood by the girl just now, which should be related to the healthy body given to him by the god. Hiraku looks at the poor vampire and decides to save her, so he offers to let the vampire suck blood. He also brings the vampire back to his farm. It is the first time that the vampire has seen vegetables from the earth, and after eating a bite of tomatoes, she immediately expresses her amazement that there are such delicious vegetables in the world. Hiraku is very happy to be praised, so he takes the vampire on a tour of his farm and shares his fruit. Hiraku has never been so happy. At night, Hiraku learns that the vampire is named Rue, a pharmacist who specializes in herbs. Because she developed a precious formula, she was hunted down by the nobles. Later, she heard that this forest has precious plants, so she entered this forest. Hiraku doesn't want to stay lonely for the rest of his life, so he plucks up the courage and invites Rue to live here and live with him in the future. Rue misunderstands that Hiraku is proposing to her, and in her opinion, living together means to be a partner. Hiraku gets blushed immediately after hearing Rue say that he was proposing, but he insists on his idea. Perhaps this is called love at first sight. Not only does Hiraku cast magic, but he also runs a farm in a dangerous forest with a group of wolves. And Rue is also attracted to the handsome and mysterious man Hiraku. What's more, Hiraku's blood is the best she has ever sucked, so she agrees to Hiraku's request. In this way, Rue becomes Hiraku's first companion. Maybe they don't know much about love in their mind, and they only know that when they are with each other, they are happy and feel comfortable, which is enough. That brings the end of episodes 1 and 2. In the era of technological civilization, it has been a long time since we paid attention to primitive farm life. This anime gives me a really warm feeling, and as the anime progresses, it makes me feel the joy of farming. Hiraku builds his family and career step by step, which is a life that many people dream of. Now after the vampire beauty joins Hiraku, I am also very curious about how the relationship between the two will go in the future, and how Hiraku will gain more partners and make his farm bigger and bigger. Well, today's video ends here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. See you in my next video. Bye.